China and Russia began the process of de-dollarizing. For the last 2 decades, the United States dollar has lost 12 percentage points.
China is now trying to replace the U.S. dollar with their currency in global trade.
The U.S. dollar has been a dominant currency for decades. All great regional powers have a staggering amount of exchange reserves in the American dollar. Moreover, the absolute majority of the trade, especially energy resources like oil and gas, is conducted via USD. However, as with everything, the US dollar is losing its grip on the world economy and may be dislodged from the position of a global currency. Already, a myriad of publications have been discussing this issue, like "The US dollar is the world's currency standard. That may not last," or articles like "De-dollarization countries seeking alternatives to the US dollar," which tells us about the journey of American dollar since 1920s, when it replaced the British pound to the volume of the Chinese yuan, skyrocketing in bilateral trade between China and Russia. So, in today's video, we are going to talk about the declining power of the US dollar and what is happening in the world that may bring its reign to an end. But before doing so, consider subscribing to the channel so that you are always well informed on the most important economic trends in the world. Since the end of World War II, the dollar has become an essential currency. Many countries hold it as a reserve currency and use it for international trade and other transactions. This is really helpful for the United States because it makes it easier for them to borrow money from different countries and impose financial sanctions when needed. As of 2019, China has the most considerable amount of foreign exchange reserves with over 3 trillion US dollars. Japan comes in second with about 1.3 trillion. There are a few other countries such as India, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, and Thailand that also have a lot of reserves. The United States has a much smaller amount of reserves, with only about 140 billion US dollars, and out of that, 40 billion is in foreign currencies. However, de-dollarization is gaining momentum. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, is in charge of keeping an eye on the global money system. It says that there are 8 crucial types of money that countries keep as reserves: Australian dollars, British pounds, Canadian dollars, Chinese yuan, euros, Japanese yen, Swiss francs, and US dollars. But of course, the US dollar is the most popular one to keep, with more than 60% of the world's foreign money reserves in US dollars. However, in its article published in June of last year, IMF acknowledges that the shares of the US dollar is now below 60%, and that in recent years, non-traditional currencies played a more significant role in global forex reserves. Experts note the importance of the de-dollarization narrative within BRICS member states, as the organization will become more potent by the end of the decade. For instance, it is estimated that by 2027, the BRICS population will surpass 3.2 billion people, and the combined GDP will be over 35 trillion US dollars. Moreover, Russia is actively pushing for the creation of a common currency and will use this opportunity in August on the summit of the BRICS organization. The serious, self-respecting countries are well aware of what is at stake, see the incompetence of the masters of the current international monetary and financial system, and want to create their own mechanisms to ensure sustainable development, which will be protected from outside dictates, said Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. In this regard, a study conducted by Cambridge University scholars concludes, to be sure, the US dollar is still the dominant currency in nearly every aspect of the current global financial system, and it is unlikely that another currency will replace the dollar anytime soon. However, history reminds us that the US dollar's dominant status should not be assumed to last forever. Apart from BRICS, countries in Southeast Asia also have been focusing on regional currency creation. For instance, ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, is a regional grouping that aims to promote economic and security cooperation among its 10 members: Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. The organization has been looking for ways to decrease its dependency on foreign currency since 2007, as the document Toward Greater Financial Stability in the Asian Region, exploring steps to create regional monetary units tell us. Furthermore, The Institute of Developing Economics reiterates the point by claiming that financial dollarization, which is the widespread use of foreign currency deposits and loans in an economy, is commonly observed in various degrees in Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. Given its adverse effects on the financial sector's stability, how to reduce financial de-dollarization emerges as an important policy issue for these countries. Besides the organization's aspirations, bilateral policies intend to decrease the influence of the American dollar is more rampant than ever. For this matter, Sino-Russian relations are the most vocal, as China's yuan replaces dollar as most traded currency in Russia. In March, when President Xi Jinping visited Moscow, both sides emphasized the importance of national currencies in trade. As a result, China's imports from Russia grew by nearly 49% last year in yuan terms, to over 763 billion yuan, 110 billion US dollars, according to China Customs data accessed through Wind Information. That's faster than roughly 28% increase in 2021. Also, according to a Commerzbank survey, Russia banks are increasing the volume of lending to corporate clients in RMB yuan. At the end of February 2023, Alpha Bank's portfolio exceeded 18 billion yuan, or 2.6 billion US dollars, while Rosebank's portfolio was about 2 billion, equivalent to $290 million, and Sberbank's RMB loan portfolio by the end of 2022 amounted to about 9 billion yuan, which is over $1.3 billion. Besides, according to the article issued by Modern Diplomacy, de-dollarization is gaining momentum in South America as well. For example, Brazil and China have made a deal to use their own currencies instead of the US dollar when trading with each other. This means they can exchange their currencies directly without converting them to US dollars. The goal is to reduce costs and make it easier to trade and invest between the two countries. China is Brazil's biggest trading partner and export market, and Brazil is the largest recipient of Chinese investment in Latin America. Therefore, this change will help do business more effectively and efficiently. In addition to the continent's largest economies, Brazil and Argentina announced the creation of a common currency this year. The idea of reducing dependence on the US dollar is worth thinking about, even though it's not very likely to happen anytime soon. Nonetheless, the efforts to further integrate South American economies are positive and could help boost economic growth, which is much needed. And the Center for Strategic and International Studies reiterates that South America's common currency is actually about de-dollarization. As if this were not enough, America's allies in the Middle East and South Asia are also trying to increase the importance of their currencies in bilateral relations with other countries. Recently, the most important Gulf states, Saudi Arabia and UAE, have established closer ties with Beijing. As a result, China conducted the first ever yuan-settled energy deal involving some 65,000 tons of Emirate liquefied natural gas, LNG. The transaction was carried out by China National Offshore Oil Corporation and France's Total Energies through the Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia also wants to increase its trade with China. In the middle of March, the Wall Street Journal reported that Saudi Arabia considers accepting yuan instead of dollars for Chinese oil sales. According to the article, Saudi Arabia is having discussions with Beijing to sell some of its oil to China using the yuan currency instead of the US dollar. This move could weaken the US dollar's position in the global oil market and would be a significant development. Plus, the important Bank of China recently declared that it had done its first ever loan partnership with the Saudi National Bank, the country's biggest bank. This loan will be in yuan and help the two countries work together financially as part of a Belt and Road initiative that China suggested. India, the primary US ally in the region, is strengthening its national currency, rupee. India's oil deals with Russian decades-old dollar dominance, Reuter writes. Since the end of 2022, Russian oil imports have never been so high. India, now buying 33 times more Russian oil than a year earlier, said Bloomberg. Lastly, New Delhi has been pushing to internationalize its currency by offering rupee to the countries who struggle to obtain the US dollar. Those are neighboring Bangladesh, Nepal, and Myanmar. Overall, 35 countries have shown interest in India's rupee trade settlement mechanism. Thus, it is evident that the de-dollarization is gaining momentum as regional leaders are pushing their currencies to replace the US dollar. Although it may take years, if the current trend is maintained, the demise of the dollar-centered world is inevitable. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and feel free to express your opinion on the subject in the comments below.